My Hero Academia franchise, and yes, it is certainly a franchise at this point, whether you like it or not, there are a lot of things that I have some particularly strong opinions about, most of which I'll be saving for rant-type videos that we'll be releasing sometime in the future. However, one thing that I absolutely adore beyond words is All For One's quirk. Well, All For One. All For One as a character may be a tad uninteresting, and his personality and presence may be significantly diluted in every subsequent appearance he's made, but his quirk is one of the most interesting powers in the series as a whole, both for how it works, and the fantastic variety of abilities that it provides as a result. For anyone who isn't aware of the story of My Hero Academia already, I'll take a brief moment to go over the bare essentials for you, because I know not everyone who watches my videos knows everything that I end up talking about in my videos, and I want to be accessible to everyone. For those of you who already know everything there is to know about the premise of the My Hero Academia story, there's a timestamp on screen now to get into the main subject of the video. In the world of My Hero Academia, around 80% of the world's population has a superpower called a quirk, which has allowed superheroes and supervillains to jump off the pages of comic books and right into the real world. Quirks are genetic in nature, and as they pass on from parent to child, they can sometimes combine with the quirk of the other parent and result in a hybrid quirk. This has resulted in something called the quirk doomsday or quirk singularity theory, depending on the translation, where eventually quirks will become so complex and powerful as they continue to blend together over the generations that they will eventually lead to humanity's destruction and extinction. Quirks come in three main categories: emitter, transformation, and mutant-type quirks. Emitter-type quirks are probably the broadest category, including powers that allow their users to emit some kind of substance and or manipulate their surroundings in some way, such as being able to create and manipulate fire and ice, being able to sprout mushrooms from your surroundings, and being able to soften solid surfaces into a semi-liquid concentration. Transformation-type quirks are quirks that allow their users to temporarily alter the nature of their body in some way, such as hardening their skin into a rock-like substance, turning into a giant dragon, or becoming a fucking giant. Step on me, mommy. Mutant-type quirks, the final type of quirk, are similar to transformation-type quirks, although their effects are permanent instead of temporary. For example, a person born with a mutant-type quirk could look like a lizard person, could have a tail, or potentially have multiple adaptations such as multiple arms and rocky skin, which is likely the result of some kind of hybrid quirk. Quirks are so interesting because they come in such a large variety of weird and wonderful forms. From being able to eject tape from your elbows, all the way to being able to manipulate the laws of reality itself. Bearing in mind that quirks are meant to be biological in nature, I have no idea how one's biology allows them to manipulate the laws of reality, but hey, some quirks let you manifest man-made constructs such as fucking car engines in your legs that are powered by orange juice, so I don't think we really need to think too hard about the logic behind that, to be honest. Amongst all of the quirks, one of my personal favourites is the main topic of today's video, All For One. A quirk that allows the wielder, All For One, to take another person's quirk and use it for himself, as well as granting him the ability to give a stolen quirk to a different person. With this power, All For One has essentially become the closest thing to a god within his universe, being able to do pretty much anything with the vast variety of different quirks that he has amassed over his tremendously long lifespan. So today, I aim to properly name and catalogue all of the various quirks that have been seen to be possessed by All For One himself, as well as his successor and his side experiment, Tomura Shigaraki in 9. At some point, I will be doing a follow-up video about all of the quirks given to the various Nomus and Nomu-adjacent characters like Gigantomachia and Kurogiri, but for now, let's focus on the big three villains who have each wielded the power of All For One at some point or another. Without further ado, let's get right into it. It's hero time! That's like the one time that catchphrase has worked outside of a Ben 10 video. So to start us off, let's actually discuss the primary quirk itself, All For One. Because there's surprisingly a lot more to this quirk than you'd be led to initially believe. I certainly didn't know all of this stuff when I went into researching this video. All For One is a contact-based emitter-type quirk that allows the user to steal the quirks of others and use them for himself. The quirk of the target is seemingly absorbed through a hole in the user's palm, as the user's hand must make physical contact with the target's body in order for the quirk to be stolen. This is a detail that seems to be often forgotten in various sources of media outside of the manga. All For One can also be used to give a stolen quirk to another person, allowing the user to effectively mix and match who has what quirk. A single target can be given multiple quirks, but this has mixed results. The best result provided by using multiple quirks at once comes from the user himself, as All For One also allows the user to create compound quirks, so to speak, by using several different quirks at the same time in order to produce unique effects, something that the user notably enjoys experimenting with. Information on how the quirk is operated is not transferred over alongside the quirk itself, so the user can only wield the stolen quirk as well as he understands it, meaning he likely wouldn't be as efficient with it as someone who had that quirk all their life. As a result of this, the user prefers to steal simplistic quirks that rely more on pure power or utility over a wide and complex variety of different powers. After all, if you wanted to create more complex techniques, you need only create a compound quirk combination. When the user steals a mutant-type quirk, a quirk that usually results in a permanent physical alteration of the host, this alteration can seemingly be turned on or off at will, effectively rendering any and all mutant-type quirks absorbed by the host as transformation-type quirks instead. Though the user can steal any quirk so long as he makes physical contact with the target, it is noted that his body cannot properly handle the powerful quirks of the more recent generations, which are notably more complex and hard to control than the quirks of previous generations, meaning that the user is effectively limited to the low-end, simplistic quirks of earlier generations. Again, this weakness can be circumvented through the use of compound quirk combination techniques. The user is capable of possessing multiple copies of the same quirk by taking the same quirk from multiple people of the same lineage, which results in a powered-up version of the stolen quirk when the user himself wields it. Interestingly, a person's personality is seemingly encoded into their quirk, as the user frequently experiences nightmares where the owners of the quirks he has stolen haunt him. And we also note that the personalities of these stolen quirks exist in a place known as the Vestige World within the quirk All For One itself. And this Vestige World is assumedly where all the stolen quirks are actually stored, or at least the information of how they work and what they are. And lastly, if the user of All For One were ever to die, all of the stolen quirks within All For One would return to their rightful original owners. Nice and convenient plot point for the manga there, I'm sure. Now, with all of that explanation out of the way for the primary quirk, All For One, let's now discuss every quirk that the character All For One has displayed throughout the series. Then we'll move into the quirks possessed by Shigaraki and 9. Spear-like Bones. Spear-like Bones is a transformation-type quirk that allows the user to generate sharp, spiraling bone structures from their body, which are sharp enough to impale other humans with ease. Interestingly, this quirk was actually the quirk of All For One's mother, which he stole shortly after being born. Therefore, that makes Spear-like Bones All For One's first successfully stolen quirk, and a long-time addition to his arsenal. Surge. Surge is a target-based emitter-type quirk that All For One stole from the former hero Ragdoll. Surge is an extremely useful utility quirk that allows the user to track up to 100 people at any given time with pinpoint accuracy, and makes the user aware of a tracked target's weak points. This quirk was later transferred over to All For One's successor, Shigaraki. Warping. Warping, referred to as liquid warp or sludge warp by some translations, is a target-based emitter-type quirk that allows the user to produce a black sludge-like substance from other people's mouths. Why this is the activation requirement, I have no idea. The liquid produced from the target's mouth is capable of encasing the target and then teleporting them to a point of the user's choosing, making this quirk exceptionally hard to counter or even anticipate. However, this quirk does have a few weaknesses, such as the fact that it can only teleport targets to and from the user's current location, and has a very small range where people can be sent to or from. So it isn't as if this quirk can be used to cover tremendous distances, though it can be used on a large scale in order to move a lot of people all at once. On top of that, the My Hero Academia wiki also states that warping can only be used on those whom the user has a close relationship with, but considering that this quirk was used on an individual that the user knew next to nothing about and had never personally met before, I'm inclined to believe that this particular limitation is either a retcon or is outright incorrect. This quirk was later transferred to a Nomu by the name of John-chan. Air Cannon. Air Cannon is a long-range emitter-type quirk that allows the user to launch a high-pressure blast of air from their hands. This blast was notably empowered by several other quirks, so the original wielder likely could not cause such devastating blasts when using it. This quirk was later transferred to Tomura Shigaraki. Spring-like Limbs. Spring-like Limbs is a transformation-type quirk that allows the user to coil up the muscles within his body in order to empower the strength of his blows via elastic potential. This quirk was notably used in tandem with Air Cannon alongside several general power-up quirks in order to enhance the strength of the blast, meaning that spring-like limbs can aid in making quirks that involve the use of momentum and force more powerful. This quirk was later transferred to Tomura Shigaraki. Rivet Stab. Rivet Stab is a medium-range transformation-type quirk that allows the user to turn parts of his body into metallic black tendrils. Interestingly, the user only seems able to produce Rivet Stab from their bones, such as their fingers or spine. The tendrils produced by Rivet Stab are easily able to pierce into the bodies of others, though the user can seemingly choose whether or not the target is actually physically harmed upon being pierced. This quirk was later transferred to Tomura Shigaraki. Force Quirk Activation. Force Quirk Activation is a contact-based emitter-type quirk that allows the user to force a person to use their quirk by making physical contact with them. The user has used this quirk in conjunction with Rivet Stab in order to pierce targets over a longer range and activate their quirk forcibly from a distance. This quirk could potentially be used in order to allow All For One to get a general idea of what a person's quirk does, so perhaps he took it in order to be able to better pick and choose which quirks might end up being useful to him without just outright asking a person what the hell their quirk actually does. I mean, I'd imagine that's why this would be taken. Impact Recoil. Impact Recoil is a close-range emitter-type quirk that allows the user to disperse and/or redirect oncoming physical force. However, the quirk seemingly cannot entirely cancel out the force of an oncoming attack, as evidenced by the fact that the dispersed force still dealt some damage back to the attacker. Multiplier. Multiplier is a transformation-type quirk that allows the user to grow more arms. We know next to nothing else about it, so that's about all that I can say for this quirk, other than the fact that I think All For One stole this quirk from either Nico Robin or Spider-Man. Not sure, maybe we'll see a theory on that at some point. Hypertrophy. Hypertrophy is a transformation-type quirk that allows the user to enlarge their body parts, which seemingly comes with some degree of enhanced strength thanks to the increased scale. Rivet. Rivet is a short-range transformation-type quirk that seemingly produces an effect similar to spear-like bones, allowing the user to generate short rivet-like growths from their body. Though their names are similar, this quirk is notably separate from Rivet Stab. Kinetic Booster. A power-up emitter-type quirk, Kinetic Booster is able to increase the amount of kinetic energy that the user produces and releases, which can be used in conjunction with quirks such as Spring-like Limbs and Air Cannon in order to amplify their effects. Interestingly, All For One is noted to have 4 separate copies of this quirk, likely obtained from several people in the same family, making the quirk significantly more powerful than usual. Brawn Boost. Brawn Boost is a power-up emitter-type quirk that grants the user a significant increase in physical strength. Due to the fact that All For One possesses 3 separate copies of this quirk, the results are profoundly more impressive. Pickled Plum. Pickled Plum is a mutant-type quirk that makes the user's head look like a pickled plum. Okay, that one isn't real, but you can see where I'm coming from, right? It's not just me. Come on. Mr. Potato Head's got some fucking competition. Infrared. Infrared is a medium-range mutant-type quirk that allows the user to see through infrared sensors even while completely blind. And this quirk also allows him to read a person's emotional state to some degree. The field of which this quirk allows the user to see is supposedly quite limited. Life Force. Life Force is a mutant-type quirk that doubles the user's lifespan and halves the rate at which they physically age. This quirk was given to the user by Dr. Shigaraki, a man who looked to be in his 60s despite being over 120 years old. However, in return for an increased lifespan, the user's stamina and physical mobility is reduced and hindered somewhat, though this can seemingly be circumvented through the use of other quirks that provide enhanced mobility and motor function. Radio Waves. Radio Waves is an emitter-type quirk that allows the user to produce an electromagnetic blast of radio waves, which can scramble and disable electronic appliances as well as electronic communicators. Interestingly, this quirk can also be used to transmit waveforms that can be translated in order to deliver conversation over long distances. This quirk was later transferred to Tomura Shigaraki. Hard Flame Fan. Hard Flame Fan is a close-range emitter-type quirk that allows the user to produce layered walls of solid fire in order to mitigate or outright negate oncoming damage. However, flames stronger than those of the produced wall are able to pass through it as if it weren't there at all, so there's your counter. Fierce Wings. Fierce Wings is a mutant-type quirk that allows the user to fly via a pair of large red feathered wings. The feathers of these wings can be detached and remotely controlled, are able to detect vibrations in the air to alert the user of even the most subtle of movements, and allow them to eavesdrop on conversations via the vibrations in the air produced by talking, and are sharp enough to be used as weapons both at short range and over long distances. However, All For One cannot use this quirk as well as the original user, as he stole the quirk after the wings had already been damaged, resulting in All For One only being able to produce damaged wing stumps instead of the full feathered wings. This quirk was briefly stolen from the number 2 hero Hawks, though was shortly returned. Impure Beam. Impure Beam is a long-range emitter-type quirk that allows the user to produce a devastatingly powerful beam of light. Though its destructive capabilities are immense, the raw power of this quirk is hard to control, and thus harms the user as well when in use. This quirk is noted to be one of All For One's most powerful stolen quirks. Dark Ball. Dark Ball is a long-range emitter-type quirk that allows the user to produce an array of black energy balls to fire at their targets, meaning that All For One can now happily be included in the club of anime characters who attack with black balls. Oh, joyous day! Bloodlet. Bloodlet is a transformation-type quirk that allows the user to expel his own blood from his body, as well as absorb his shed blood back in. This quirk could be useful for preventing blood loss, which I imagine is why All For One stole it in the first place, though he also demonstrated the ability to expel all of his blood at once and then reabsorb it in order to cool his temper. However that works. Guess your blood can't boil when it isn't even in your body. Noted for next time I murder someone with hot water. Antigen Swap. Antigen Swap is a transformation-type quirk that allows the user to change their blood type at will. This quirk was used in order to better hide All For One's identity, as it allowed him to masquerade as a variety of different people over the years. This quirk, if used by someone who was significantly less evil, Could also be a saving grace for the medical industry, with blood transfusions of any type suddenly becoming readily available. Too bad Testicle Face got his hands on it, huh? Blood Curdle. Blood Curdle is a target-based emitter-type quirk stolen from the hero killer Stain. This quirk allows the user to paralyze someone temporarily by ingesting their blood, with the amount of time someone remains paralyzed varying by their blood type. People who have B-type blood are notably paralyzed the longest at 8 minutes maximum. Now I move into quirks that All For One possesses which don't have official names, and which seemingly don't have a given quirk type either. As a result, I'm going to be giving names to these quirks as well as classifying what type I think they are, but just know that these names and quirk types are non-canon and only the quirks themselves are official material. Phosphor. Phosphor is a mutant-type quirk that makes the user's body perpetually glow with a shining bright light. All For One stole this quirk from the Luminescent Baby, who was the first person in the world to have a quirk. Well, one of the many, quote-unquote, first people to have a quirk, at least. Yeah, that's an interesting narrative to say. Mannequin. Mannequin is a transformation-type quirk that allows the user to freely alter their own physical appearance. The user was able to change his appearance significantly in order to appear as different people and hide in plain sight from those who were after him. Telekinesis. Telekinesis is a short-range emitter-type quirk that allows the user to levitate objects of considerable size in the air freely. Mind Slave. Mind Slave is a contact-based emitter-type quirk that allows the user to mind control others by making physical contact with their head. There are likely other conditions to this quirk, because I believe it's only used once, and the only reason that something like mind control wouldn't be used all the time would be because it has some hard limitations, I would imagine. Or the author just forgot about it. To be fair, this guy has a lot of quirks, I wouldn't be surprised if he forgot a few of them. Truth Seeker. Truth Seeker is a target-based emitter-type quirk that allows the user to tell if another person is lying or possesses any kind of ill will towards them. This quirk was empowered over the years through combination with several other quirks, and it was originally stolen from the ancestor of Detective Tsukauchi, likely making Truth Seeker a predecessor quirk to Polygraph. Hover. Hover is an emitter-type quirk that allows the user to levitate in the air. Some fan theories speculate that Hover is perhaps a composite quirk combination that involves Nanashimura's float quirk, but I don't think this has been confirmed as canon information, so correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that, but I don't think that's where this quirk comes from. Airclaw. Airclaw is a medium-range emitter-type quirk that allows the user to create crescent-shaped wind blasts by swiping his hand. Acrid Ooze. Acrid Ooze is a close-range emitter-type quirk that allows the user to secrete a thick goo-like substance from their body that can slow down the speed of oncoming attacks and even dissolve materials that come into contact with it. Trapjaw. Trapjaw is a medium-range transformation-type quirk that allows the user to generate bizarre, distorted faces that can be used as projectiles to bite at foes over a decent distance. The projectiles produced by this quirk can vary in size greatly. This quirk, interestingly, is also somewhat similar to a quirk used by a pro hero in the Mansion Raid arc, if you know the one I'm on about. Echolocate. Echolocate is a medium-range mutant-type quirk that grants its user the ability to perceive their surroundings clearly, even while completely blinded through the use of echolocation, though this form of visual aid is likely unreliable in particularly loud areas. Glue. Glue is a short-range emitter-type quirk that allows the user to produce a sticky glue-like substance. The user wielded this ability to try and repair his broken life support mask, lending to the idea that he likely only ever got this quirk as a failsafe for his mask being damaged. Space Crush. Space Crush is a medium-range emitter-type quirk that allows the user to create a field of gravitational distortion that tears apart whatever is within its range. The My Hero Academia wiki lists an unnamed body appendage quirk in chapter 382, but I checked that chapter and the two chapters that came after and couldn't seem to find a panel where this was actually shown, so maybe I'm just stupid and missed it, but because I don't know if it's real or not, I'm just going to say that the wiki says it's real and move on to the next quirk. Sorry, I might just be stupid. Killer Shock. Killer Shock is a long-range emitter-type quirk that allows the user to produce black lightning from their body, which acts as both a defensive field around them and also a long-range attack at foes. I get some real Black Flash vibes from this one. Boost Repulsor. Boost Repulsor is a short-range emitter-type quirk that allows the user to create rings that produce significant repulsive force when travelled through, allowing the user to move at a significant speed over short distances by travelling through a ring and being propelled away from it. Tusks. Tusks is a mutant-type quirk that causes the user to sprout sharp tusks from their jaw, as well as hardening the skin around the user's face. This quirk, along with numerous other mutant-type quirks, was taken from an individual who wanted All For One to take his quirk in order to avoid racism from those who deemed people with mutant-type quirks as lesser beings, like that not-so-subtle KKK analog. Solid. Solid is a transformation-type quirk that allows the user to harden portions of their skin at a time by a significant degree. This quirk is similar in nature to Eijiro Kirishima's hardening. That about wraps it all up for all of the quirks that All For One currently has, but there are a few more that we know he had in the past before giving them away to others. So let's now go over those, but we'll do this more in a quick-fire manner because some are going to be discussed more later in the video, and others are going to be discussed more in future videos. So, All For One formerly had access to Power Stockpiling, which was given to his brother Yoichi, Decay, which was given to Tomura Shigaraki, Naval Laser, which was given to Yuga Aoyama, Transforming Arms, which was given to Hood, Mole, which was given to Gigantomachia, Overclock, which was given to Number 6, Muscle Augmentation, which was given to Wolfram, Airwalk, which was given to Lady Nagant, Self-Destruct, which was also given to Lady Nagant, Body Bulk, which was given to Spinner, Scale Mail, which was also given to Spinner, and several unnamed quirks that he gave out to fighters at the Underground Masquerade, as well as a number of the quirks belonging to his various Nomu. Now, let's move on to the quirks possessed by All For One's successor, Tomura Shigaraki. Starting with his most famous quirk, Decay. Decay is a contact-based emitter-type quirk that allows the user to disintegrate anything that they touch with at least all 5 fingers on one hand. The decaying process isn't instantaneous and therefore can be prevented from totally destroying the target if contact is broken, but the rate at which living things and solid objects decay seems to vary by individual and material, so kinda hard to gauge. Though this quirk originally could only destroy what the user touched directly with his hands, this turned out to be a psychosomatic repression, as the quirk later developed into being able to decay other things that were making contact with the original target, and could also be activated through the user's feet as well as their hands. I've never thought about that. Is there a Shigaraki foot porn with like decay? Fuck it, if I can find it, I'll put some on screen. I'm not sorry. On top of that, decay is a quirk that could destroy semi-solids and energy via physical contact, despite such things typically not being something that you can just reach out and touch, meaning that ranged attacks are also ineffective against the user so long as they can react fast enough. Interestingly, decay was actually recently confirmed to be a modified copy of another character's quirk, Overhaul. However, where Overhaul is a quirk that allows the user to break down and reassemble matter, decay was modified so that it could only destroy and not create. Now with that out of the way, let's move into Shigaraki's other quirks. Super Regeneration. Super Regeneration is a transformation type quirk that allows the user to regenerate from even the most severe of injuries at an alarmingly accelerated rate, to the point that the user could actively survive and regenerate while being continuously barraged with extremely hot flames. Heavy Payload. Heavy Payload is a target-based emitter-type quirk that seemingly allows the user to amplify the severity of an inflicted wound, turning even a small graze into a deadly gash. Scatter. Scatter is a target-based emitter-type quirk that allows the user to disperse their projectile attacks in order to widen their effective range when used against foes, or to disperse an oncoming projectile attack in order to prevent harm when used against him. Wing. Wing is a transformation-type quirk that allows the user to sprout wings from their body in order to fly. Danger Sense. Danger Sense is an emitter-type quirk that basically acts as a spider sense, which is a clear parallel considering the author's fascination with the character. Danger Sense allows the user to sense oncoming danger and therefore allows them to prepare a dodge or counter accordingly. This quirk was stolen from the series' protagonist, Izuku Midoriya. Now for a few unnamed quirks that Shigaraki possesses. Same as with All For One, I'll be providing names and types for these myself, but nothing but the actual quirk itself is canon. Flutter. Flutter is an emitter-type quirk that allows the user to levitate mid-air, as well as gently glide in the direction of their choosing while sustained in mid-air. Alongside Flutter, Shigaraki also possesses the same Black Lightning and Repulsive Ring quirks as his predecessor. We've already named these quirks Killer Shock and Boost Repulsor, so that rounds out Shigaraki's current unnamed quirks. But now we have to move into quirks that Tomura Shigaraki formerly possessed, which are as follows. Birthright Quirk. This unnamed quirk was the quirk that Tomura Shigaraki was originally born with, though it was stolen and replaced with Decay at a young age by his master, All For One. Though we do not know exactly what this quirk is, considering that he is a descendant of Nana Shimura, there is a non-0% chance that his quirk is either float or some variation/hybrid that involves float. New Order. New Order is a target-based emitter-type quirk that Shigaraki stole from Star and Stripe. This quirk allows the user to impose up to 2 new laws of reality at any given time, simply by speaking. It's more of a fucking stand than it is a quirk, but whatever. Hence why it was such a valuable quirk for Shigaraki to try and steal. However, this ended up backfiring, and New Order instead destroyed a number of Shigaraki's other stolen quirks instead. Reflect. Reflect is an emitter-type quirk that allows the user to deflect oncoming attacks back at the user's opponent. This quirk was destroyed by New Order, and is the only quirk that we know New Order actually destroyed. It didn't get any other named ones. And with that, we now move into our last character of the video, 9. And by the way, yes, 9 is actually canon to the manga. The My Hero Academia movies are canon to the source material, as proven by recent manga chapters. So, before anyone says that this is unnecessary, this is canon material, I'm sorry. 9, as his name suggests, is capable of carrying up to 9 quirks at a time, though he only ever amassed 7 during his time on screen, including all for 1 and his own original quirk. So let's start with 9's original quirk, Weather Manipulation. Weather Manipulation is a long-range emitter-type quirk that allows the user to, as the name suggests, freely manipulate the weather, as well as control all aspects of it, such as being able to precisely control where lightning fell or how heavy rainfall was. This quirk was actually too powerful for the user's body to handle, similar to All for One with Impure Beam, resulting in the rapid decay of the user's cellular tissue with each subsequent use. Air Wall. Air Wall is an emitter-type quirk that allows the user to produce a barrier of pressurized air in order to defend against oncoming attacks. Though this quirk is naturally a great defense, it can also be used as an offensive quirk, as demonstrated by the user's ability to make the barrier burst into a blast of pressurized air. This quirk is similar in nature to Kosei Subaraba's Solid Air, which I just think is interesting. Scanning. Scanning is a short-range emitter-type quirk that allows the user to see what quirk a person has, as well as gain a rough idea of how powerful that particular quirk is. This quirk also acted as something similar to a power level reader, as the user was notably able to detect when his opponents were either holding back, when they were going all out, and when they were pushing themselves beyond their usual limits. Bullet Laser. Bullet Laser is an emitter-type quirk that allows the user to fire purple lasers from its fingertips, with these lasers easily being able to pierce flesh, and sometimes even being able to explode on impact. Hydra. Hydra is a medium-range emitter-type quirk that allows the user to produce bizarre, semi-solid constructs that resemble the heads of a hydra, which could be used as both offensive attacks, meat shields, and an effective way to restrain foes. And now, the final quirk of both 9 and this video as a whole, good lord this one has been long, Cell Activation. Cell Activation is a contact-based emitter-type quirk that allows the user to regenerate themselves or others through physical contact by forcing their cells into regenerating at an accelerated rate. However, this quirk could only work on others of the same blood type, and the blood type of the user was not compatible with the blood type affected by the quirk, resulting in a dud ability that it was entirely useless to the user. And now, with all that said, that's about all I have to say with this video. This one was definitely a bit different from my usual stuff, but honestly this was a super fun change of pace for me, even if researching got a bit boring from time to time. And I want to do more cataloguing videos like this in the future, absolutely. Please feel free to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments below, and let me know which of these quirks is your favourite. Personally, I think 9's Hydra quirk might be my favourite. It's just so weird and interesting at the same time, and I really like it. Either that or Bloodlet, because Bloodlet is so oddly specific and stupid, but that kind of makes it great. But now let's move into our usual post-video rituals. So, first of all, big thank you to our channels Thunderbeasts, Riverjoy, Hun_, Inelmua, Victor Matusik, Chargegame AA, and Plasma6. Now let's move into last video's poll, where I asked you guys which type of devil fruit you would most want to get your hands on if you lived in the One Piece world, excluding mythical and ancient zones, because obviously everyone would pick those if they could. With 591 total votes, Carnivorous Zones got 8% of the votes, Paramecia/Special Paramecia got 20% of the votes, Herbivorous Zones got 4% of the votes, and Logia, unsurprisingly, won by a landslide with a whopping 68% of the total votes. So close to the funny number there. Personally, I would actually want a herbivorous zone. Maybe the moose or anteater could be good, because zones are shown to make you turn into a larger version of a normal animal, as seen with like the caterpillar and the spider zone. And herbivorous zones also grant you enhanced stamina and regeneration without the negative drawback of being more bloodthirsty like a carnivorous zone. So honestly, I think this works best for me and my personal tastes. With that said, let's now give a big shout out to everyone who correctly guessed that I chose herbivorous zone. So, big shout out to Volt N95, good friend of mine, Theo5884, another good friend of mine, and Hyper Anmis, another good friend of mine. Clearly you three know me well. Congratulations on guessing correctly, everyone. Now let's finish things up by moving into this video's poll. Here's an interesting My Hero Academia question. Out of the following pro heroes, which one would you most want to be a sidekick for? Selkie, Gunhead, Ryukyu, or Mirko? Leave a comment below or on the poll guessing which one I would want to be a sidekick for the most for a chance to get a shout out in my next video, and with that, I'll be seeing you all next time. Adios, fellow heroes.